Hey everyone, this is Christian Heimel, host of Caught Listening. Thanks for listening to the following podcast on Public House Media.
You're listening to Catch Up, an official news production of Public House Media.
Today is June 30th, 2020, and it's time to catch up on the news that you need to know about.
Today we're helping you catch up on reports of Russian officials offering bounties on U.S. coalition forces.
Lawmakers make historic steps in removing Confederate battle emblem from Mississippi's state flag.
Mike Henry announcing he'll no longer voice the cartoon character Cleveland Brown.
And an endangered species of Mexican wolf are now thriving again.
We're your hosts, Dan Kotnick
and Catherine Smith. Welcome to Catch Up.
New reports published by the Washington Post and New York Times revealed that Russian intelligence officers have offered Taliban militants bounties on U.S. and U.K. troops in Afghanistan. Citing U.S. and U.K. intelligence, the bounties offered by Russian officials led directly to coalition casualties. However, the reports would not specify the date of the casualties, the number, or nationality.
According to the reports, U.S. intelligence came to the conclusion that the Russians had been offering the bounties months ago amid peace talks in the country. President Trump was briefed on the findings according to officials briefed on the matter. However, in a tweet Sunday night, the president stated, quote, "Intel just reported to me that they did not find this info credible and therefore did not report it to me or at VP."
A similar sentiment was echoed by White House Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany in a statement released Saturday, stating neither Trump nor Vice President Mike Pence had been briefed on the intelligence, but did not address the validity of the reports. The Russian embassy in D.C. denounced the reports on Friday, calling them, quote, "baseless allegations," and have led to death threats against Russian diplomats in the U.S. and U.K. 2019 was the deadliest in 5 years for the U.S. and Afghanistan, with 23 service members killed.
Lawmakers in Mississippi voted to remove the Confederate battle emblem from the state flag earlier this week, paving the way for Mississippi's Governor Tate Reeves to sign the measure into law. Here to discuss more on the subject is Catch-Up News correspondent John Louder. As this action is not taken lightly by the people of Mississippi, could you tell us more about the wave of response to the actions taken by legislation and lawmakers rationalizing with the removing of this emblem for the historic Mississippi flag?
Well, look, guys, I mean, as we've seen with a lot of these other situations, whether it be branding with Aunt Jemima and Mrs. Buttersworth and Uncle Ben, symbols and flags and things of that nature mean a lot to a lot of different people. And therefore, there's going to be pretty serious reaction no matter what side of the coin you're on. It was high time to make this change. The Mississippi flag represents a racist past in the South that really does not represent where we are as a country in 2020, but there are plenty of people in the state of Mississippi that didn't want to see it change because of the history, because of their love for their state and what they believe is a flag that should have stayed the same. But clearly it was time for a change, and we're going to continue to see this, whether it be flags, branding, anything that has sort of a connotation that doesn't fit where we are as a society in 2020 is more than likely going to change, or if it isn't, it's going to be under a lot of scrutiny.
Yeah, that kind of answers the question I was going to ask you, too, is as we see more and more of this kind of coming across with historical monuments, especially Confederate and banning of the Confederate flag from various states and other events around the country. Do you think that action like this is more of a case-by-case basis, or do you foresee something in the future where this gets taken to a federal, national kind of level?
I can't imagine it going that far, Dan, just because there's a million other things that the federal government needs to be worried about, and statutes certainly wouldn't be at the top of that list. So I do think it's going to be more of a case-by-case basis, but I do think there's going to be a lot more of those coming up because there's obviously plenty of statutes all over our country that have racial connotations. Many will argue it's just history, leave it be. Others will argue it's a terrible history that needs to be changed and needs to be replaced. So no matter, again, what side of the sort of opinion you're on, there's going to be a lot more of these, but I cannot imagine it going to a federal level unless it's a statue that's within, the White House or something like that. But I mean, other than that, I can't see this being a federal issue. I think it's going to be more of a state, a local, town, city type situation. But you're going to see plenty more of this. There's plenty of it going on in New York and New Jersey, where I am, and obviously in the South, there's even more of it. So you're going to continue to see this, but I do think it's going to be more on a case-by-case basis, not some sort of widespread thing, just because, again, the federal government has much bigger fish to fry and much more important things to be worried about.
Let me take it just one step further, kind of away from the Confederate side of things, John, if you'll let me here for just a second. It seems like pressure has been kind of ramped up a little bit on teams as well. The Redskins have kind of come under a renewed scrutiny. Obviously, Dan Snyder has had kind of a checkered past with that in recent years. Do you think that this the renewed sort of move to remove these Confederate monuments and things like that with the racist connotations behind them, do you think that trickles over into the sports segment at all? Or do you think that that America kind of has a dividing line between the two?
Oh, no, I agree with you 100%, Dan, that it's definitely going to come into sports. Now, Daniel Snyder, the owner of the Redskins, is not the sharpest tool in the shed. He has been a terrible owner for Washington, and he has stood steadfastly by the Redskin name despite many complaints over the years. Will this be any different? I wouldn't think so with him, but you never know. Obviously, the Cleveland Indians, Atlanta Braves, and then this trickles all the way down to high schools. Like I just mentioned, I'm from northern New Jersey. We've had multiple high schools in my area change their mascots and their school names just in the last month. So you're going to see this, I think, from all the way to the professional leagues and all the way down because, again, it's 2020 and it seems like real changes in a lot of ways are finally coming on this. But to the Redskins specifically, I wouldn't expect it just because of the way Dan Snyder is. I can tell you one thing, if he did make the change, it would be such a smart decision for him. It would raise his profile positively, considering what a mess he's made that franchise. But I don't see him changing because he's an incredibly stubborn individual and has not changed it up to this point.
Well, John, thank you as always for joining us and bringing your insight into the issue. Thanks again for taking time.
Dan and Catherine, thanks so much. I appreciate it.
Mike Henry, popular voice actor of Family Guy and the Cleveland show's Cleveland Brown, announced over the weekend that he would be stepping away from voicing the popular cartoon character. Henry stated in a statement on Twitter that, quote, persons of color should play characters of color, end quote, as he announced that he would stop voicing the character, which he had been doing for over 20 years.
The move comes on the heels of other white actors and actresses making the move to step down from voicing characters of color on different programs. Earlier in the week, comedian Jenny Slate publicly announced she would no longer be voicing Big Mouth character Missy, a mixed-race character. In an Instagram post, Slate stated that she, quote, reasoned with myself that it was permissible to play Missy because her mom is Jewish and white, as am I. But Missy is also black, and black characters on an animated show should be played by black people.
Alison Brie, who voiced a Vietnamese character, Diane Nguyen, on Netflix's BoJack Horseman, spoke out Friday apologizing for voicing the character, stating she wishes she hadn't voiced her. Arguably, the biggest announcement came from the directors of The Simpsons, announcing their decision earlier in the week that they would no longer have white actors voice non-white characters. Most notably, the character Apu, who is voiced by Hank Azaria and who has come under more intense scrutiny in the last year. Azaria made the decision several months ago that he would no longer be voicing the character, but was still voicing other characters of color on the show.
Recovery efforts for one of North America's most charismatic and persecuted species, the Mexican wolf, received an encouraging boost this spring with 20 wolf pups born in captivity that were successfully integrated within the wild packs of Southwest United States yesterday.
As captive breeding programs in zoos and wolf centers from Missouri, New Mexico, Kansas, California, and Arizona took part in the efforts to provide 20 pups from 7 different litters were returned to the 7 wild packs in Arizona and New Mexico yesterday in a cross-fostering method in order to reintroduce pups into the wildlife to encourage the highest rate of survival of its kind.
The species Canis lusus labii has been hunted to nearly extinction in the mid-20th century in the U.S. for killing its livestock. However, after successful conservation efforts to integrate wolves, 109 animals have been reintroduced by 2015.
The Mexican Wolf Intricacy Field Team started cross-fostering wolves in 2014, and since then, more than 30 pups born in captivity have been reintroduced into the wild, continuing the ever-growing survival rate of this beautiful and courageous breed. Thanks for catching up on today's news with us. I'm Dan Kotnick.
And I'm Catherine Smith. Please make sure to catch up with us again tomorrow.
If you enjoyed today's episode, please leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts.
We appreciate you listening to Catch Up. For more content, follow Catch Up Digital on social media. Just search for @TimeForCatchup.
We'd love to hear your thoughts on any of the stories we covered today. Just use the hashtag #PassTheCatchup on social media.
Catch Up is an official production of Public House Media.